Nom Nom delivers fresh food with whole ingredients backed by veterinarian science. Science tells us that a dog's health starts in the bowl, so improving their diet is one of the best ways to help them live a long and happy life. Nom Nom's food is full of proteins your dog loves and the vitamins and nutrients they need to thrive. All you have to do is order, pour, and serve. Ready to make the switch to fresh? Order Nom Nom today. Go to https://trynom.com/curveball and get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's https://trynom.com/curveball. Plus, Nom Nom comes with a money-back guarantee. If your dog's tail isn't wagging within 30 days, Nom Nom will refund your first order. No fillers, no nonsense, just Nom Nom. Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by engineer by day, author, and singer and songwriter by night, Pascal Dennis. Pascal is a man of many passions. He has written 5 business novels and a book of poetry. And as I said, he's a singer-songwriter. So we're going to be talking to him about his career and everything that he's up to. So Pascal, thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate it, Curtis. Thank you very much.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've got kind of an unusual background. My parents were, nowadays they call them refugees, but back when they came to North America, they were called displaced persons, DPs. And they barely escaped the horrible wars of the mid 20th century. And they arrived in North America. Our family is in Cincinnati and in Toronto, Canada. Ours is the northern portion of the family. And, they were desperately poor, and they took whatever work they could get. And my dad was a dishwasher at Grossman's Tavern, which is a famous R&B bar in Toronto here. My mom worked as a garment worker, and they saved their pennies, and they finally opened a little family diner, which I worked at from the age of 8. Now, music was always part of our family. My granddad, even though there was war and famine and depression and political extremism, he played the mandolin, and he sang in the church. So I was introduced to music at a very young age. But my early years were tough because there was a lot of poverty and a lot of mental illness in my family. And I survived, thanks to really compassionate strangers. And I have great respect for the healing arts, for psychiatrists, psychologists, priests. So I came to terms with my childhood. And one of the ways I came to terms with it was through music. I had bands all through my early years. That's where I met our producer, David Logan, who is a genius of a producer at a Berklee School of Music in Boston. And he really liked my songs. So we put a band together way back when we were both young and foolish. And I wasn't very good. David was great. I wasn't very good. So we made a record. It went nowhere. So David went to Hollywood, of all places, and he became a big-time producer in TV shows. Like he was on the Sex and the City. And me, I had to make a living. So I went to engineering school. And I started a little business, and I started a family. but I kept playing and I kept writing and I kept a little band together, and because I couldn't stop. It was how I dealt with my life. Anyhow, um, about 3 years ago, actually, just with the start of the pandemic, I suddenly had, like a lot of people, a lot more free time. So I took out all the songs that I'd written and I started to polish them. And something weird happened, Curtis. I got way better real quick, and I'm not sure how that happened. I think the gods decided, okay, that guy over there, we're gonna hit him with something, with a lightning bolt. And so I just started writing all these songs, and I called up my old friend David, who is now teaching composition in Europe, in the oldest music school in Europe, in Rome, Santa Cecilia. And I said, David, I don't know what's happened, man, but my writing's gotten a lot better. And he said, all right, let's hear some of them. So I recorded some stuff, sent them to him, and he said, holy cow, you've gotten a lot better, man. Let's put a band together. And we did. And then we've been putting out a record every year and a string of singles in the genres and styles that we like, and we've got a really solid band, and it's the best young players in Europe, basically. David's students, so he picks the best students, and they really love to play in our band because I write the styles I love. So it's kind of retro or alt. So I love R&B, Little Walter, Jimmy Reed, and all those fantastic players. I love classic country. I love jazz and show tunes. I love rock and roll. So I write the songs that I love, and the band, they translate them because they're all young men and women, and they didn't grow up with this stuff, but they heard about it and they study it in school. So they say to me, "What, man, this tune, man? How should I play it?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of like a 1954 Little Walter, a groove, and we want that kind of raw sound." And they'll listen to the link I sent them. They go, "Hey, man, Little Walter is great." I said, "Yeah, he is." And he said, "Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do with this guitar part, and it's fantastic, but it's fresh, So it's retro with a modern spin, and that's how I got here. It's kind of a bizarre story, but there it is.
Absolutely. It might be bizarre, but it's definitely amazing. So, so tell us about the author side of you, five business novels and a book of poetry. How did you get into that, and kind of tell us about your novels and your poetry and where we can get them?
Well, my all my stuff is available on Amazon. So if you go to my author page, just put in my name, and you'll find the books there. Um, so I studied engineering, and I was lucky enough to be hired by Toyota Motor Company, and I spent basically the 1990s there as a young engineer and manager, and I had a lot of really deeply emotional experiences there because the Toyota system really touches the heart. It's about respect for people and consideration for the community. And I had intense experiences with what the Japanese call senseis. These are teachers, mentors. And back then, the Toyota sent their best and brightest teachers abroad to America and Canada, say, and all over Asia and Europe to teach us this new way of managing. And so what I try to do in my books is translate it for contemporary managers. So it's a way of managing and living that's much more humane. And it turns out it's much more productive and much more fun. So that's what my business novels are about. And I have kind of a cult status, I guess, because it's such an unusual thing to do. And the other thing I've done as I've traveled around the world, working in different countries, at the end of the day, I'm always in a bar or in a restaurant with my little notebook, and I'm writing down poems or song ideas or, a scene from a novel or something like that. And that's what turned into a book of poems, which is called Reflections of a Business Nomad. And eventually led to all my songs. So um, it's a funny kind of a thing. But I couldn't stop. At the end of the day, I had to write down what I was feeling. I was just trying to make sense of things, try to put them in some kind of context and perspective. And I also wanted to share the poems and songs for my family. I've got three kids. I've got a wonderful wife, and who keeps the home fires burning. So I wanted them to know, what it was like being in all these places and doing this work. And it's just a way of keeping the spirit and the heart alive.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about some of your biggest musical influences, and since you're an author, some of your biggest writing influences.
I guess musically, I love the classic genres. So I mentioned R&B. When I was a very young kid, I heard the great Chicago blues players. I mentioned Jimmy Reed, Little Walter, Muddy Waters, and they absolutely devastated me. I couldn't believe how good they were. You know, uh, Louisiana musicians like Louis Armstrong has been my hero forever. Wynton Marsalis, just the style and the grace and the elegance of the man, and the big spirit, the big heart, the inclusiveness. In terms of jazz musicians, um, I write a lot of, I guess you could call them golden age of America, or the Great American Songbook type songs. So the kind that, say, Frank Sinatra, Billie Holiday would sing on, and also the great saxophone players of the day, like Lester Young and Ben Webster, Coleman Hawkins. I mean, they just are so powerful for me. In terms of country singers, I really connected deeply with Hank Williams, with George Jones, because people like that, it's like you hear their songs and it's like they were recorded in somebody's kitchen after somebody stopped crying. And for me, it was important because I come from this crazy, impoverished family, and I thought it's just me. I felt embarrassed. I didn't want to talk about it. And then I heard all these incredible artists, and it was okay. It was like, hey, it's not just you that's suffering like this. So those are some of my main influence. I could go on and on, but you get a sense from them.
Absolutely. We most definitely do. So tell us about any current or upcoming projects that you're working on, whether it be writing or music.
Well, we just released our third record. It's called Shame on the Sun, and it's available on all the on online stores. And we've got a fantastic videographer, Levi Miucci, and he's made incredible videos for most of the songs on the record. Um, Shame on the Sun, like all our records, is a mix of retro styles that we love. So the title track is a 1950s 3 o'clock in the morning ballad, the kind that like Sarah Vaughan or Billie Holiday might sing, just rip your heart out kind of a song. And then we've got like really funny country political commentary songs like Tricky Dick Forever, which is a plea for um, common sense, for good spirits, for forgiveness, for mercy in America, because I love America, and I travel all over your beautiful country, and I see people are just so divided. So Tricky Dick Forever is a plea for humor, mercy. If we disagree, that's fine. Let's just move on. Let's break bread. Let's have a beer and be kind to one another. And then we've got R&B songs. We've got a little Walter R&B song called "I Tell You the Truth, But You Know I'm a Liar." So it's it's a I if I may, I just love this band and I'm so proud of them. These young people just keep getting stronger and stronger and better and better. And one of the wonderful things is that they translate the songs and make them their own. So our guitar player Julio is a young boy from Sardinia, in the Mediterranean Sea, and he just exudes the blues. He just understands it at such a deep level. So, a number of the songs on Shame on the Sun are written for him, just for his style and his feel and his very unique sense of soul. So yeah, it's a fantastic experience for me as a writer and as a musician.
Absolutely. So tell us about some of the big artists you work with, or if you have not worked with, who would you like to work with? What are your dream artists to work with?
Oh gosh. I guess I mean, off the top of my head, I'd love to work with Paul McCartney and and Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I'll start with Brian Wilson. I really identify with him because not only did he overcome mental illness and really difficult family circumstances, um, but there's a gentleness and a sweetness to the man. And I think he's almost 80 now, but he's still writing, he's still performing, he's still creative, he's still very much alive. So I'd be honored to tune his guitar, just for his tenacity, his artistry, and his gentleness. Paul McCartney, um, for similar reasons. I mean, I think he came from a much more stable childhood, and he was always really he's always been really optimistic. And growing up, I was always kind of a John Lennon guy, because I like the bleakness and the acidity of John's lyrics and viewpoint. But as I've gotten older, I appreciate Paul's just his good humor, his optimism, and also his sense of we just keep going. He's had all sorts of tragedies, but he just keeps going, and he's positive, and he's funny. And I saw an interview with him, and he said, well, and they asked him about some of the difficult things that had happened to him. And he said, well, that's true, but you have to forge ahead. You just have to keep going. And then he told him about some new song that he was working on, that he was so excited about. And he's Paul McCartney. He's 84 years old, and he's still he's still excited. A new tune. So yeah, those two would probably be right up there.
Absolutely. Well, so listeners can keep up with everything that you're up to, music and book wise. Throw out your contact information.
Um, our handle on all the social media outlets is Pascal Dennis Music. Just all one word, Pascal, Pascal, Dennis, like Dennis the Menace Music. I'd recommend our YouTube channel has got incredible videos on it by Levi Miucci, and our Facebook channel it's got a lot of great stuff. And then Bandcamp is our chosen online platform because it's much more fair to musicians. But we're also on the other ones, Spotify, Amazon, and the rest. Again, Pascal Dennis Music. We'll get you there.
All right. Well, close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if there was something I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Um, gosh, I guess well, since I think you're from Louisiana, and I'll just say that Louis Armstrong uh, is one of my biggest influences. I love the man. I love his music. I love his optimism, and he's one of the great heroes and great inventors. Him and Duke Ellington are like the greatest American musicians of the last 100 years. And one of them's from Louisiana, the other's from Washington D.C., and I admire and love them both.
And yes, I am from Louisiana. And Mr. Pascal, I'd like to thank you for, joining us and sharing your expertise, and tell the listeners, Pascal Dennis Music, check out everything that his band is up to. Check out his books, follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you have any guests or suggestion topics, see Jackson102 at cox.net is the place to send them. As always, thank you for listening. And Pascal, thank you so much for joining us again.
My pleasure. Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate it.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.